Let's see, we got some signal, I got sound, and let's rock and roll. What's going on, Automation Nation? It's Justin Morgan of AutomationMastery.net, here to help you automate your business, master your destiny, and maximize your impact. Hope everybody's doing well on this day, evening, life, whatever, whenever you're listening to this, whether it's live, replay. I'm doing this live late in the day, which is fine because it means I gave you a little more time to get the previous step done. That's all that it means. But I'm here, and today's an important day. Today's a very key day, a part of these 25 days of automation. We're on day 13. Day 13 is a great 13. Unlike folks who may be afraid of the number 13, this one's a great one. It's a good one. We'll be talking about your signature presentation. Now, you'll be wondering, what is your signature presentation and what does it have to do with automating your business? So, one of the best tools that you will have, all right, so one of the best tools that you have to sell is, so the best salesperson, the best person with all the knowledge, the best person with all the experience in your business is typically going to be you. So you are the expert. You are the best salesperson in your business. Now, unfortunately, you can't be everywhere all the time to sell to everybody, right? So that's the challenge. And there's a couple ways around that. Either one, you have to be able to hire a sales team, which can be hard when you're just starting out because, frankly, I don't know that many folks who want to work for somebody who is still kind of testing their business. So, if I'm a salesperson, I want to make sure I'm selling for somebody who has something that is profitable, right? So that can be a bit tough to bring people on to get a salesperson. So that's one piece. The other piece, again, is, man, you can't be everywhere all the time. And so it would behoove you to have a system in place that allows you to continue to be the salesperson without you actually being there. And your webinar is that thing. So a webinar is a presentation that is done virtually here online. It can be done live or can be done via software to make it look live or just, as a recording, right? And that's the beauty of it. I'm doing this also, it helps you deliver on stage as well. So the very principles that you learn here in terms of doing a webinar can serve you when you're working from the stage or at a workshop or at a live event. And so don't think that that doing this all of a sudden disqualifies you from being able to use these principles in that manner. So that's what we'll be talking about today. Today is mainly the structure of a webinar. So how you, at the end of this, the task really is going to be to draft the structure of your webinar. So you don't have to go in and put it in PowerPoint yet and any of that stuff just yet. Like, I just want you to get the structure of it. And so I'm going to walk you through an example, which is actually a presentation I've done. Am I the best webinar presentation giver? No, I'll give you a couple of great examples of some folks and that I've learned from. And so, certainly I take what I give you because I've learned what I've received from some of the greats. Again, I'm a ClickFunnels guy. Russell Brunson is very good with presentations. If you're a Black CEO member, fan, followed our tribe at any point in time, Trevor Otts and Shay Brown are actually very good at putting together signature presentation. It's what they do very well. Ruben West is another great speaker. He puts together excellent presentations. And I think somebody else in the community. There's a ton of other speakers who are affiliated with us. Myron Golden is very good. He's kind of affiliated with a bunch of different people. He's very good at giving a presentation. So again, if you see any other folks, this is not an end-all list. So I'm sure there are plenty of folks out there who do very good presentations, are excellent speakers. You're amazing. I'm speaking to you right now if you are. But these are the folks that kind of popped into my brain that I've learned some things from and picked some things up over time. Definitely other folks I've learned things from, but these are the people that are at the top of my list of the highlight right now. So that being said, so go out and learn and listen from those folks. Plenty of info there. But what I'm going to show you right now is just a webinar I've gotten from kind of the culminating, just kind of the putting all those things together and taking some structure that has been proven to work. Okay, and so that's what I have. That's what I'm going to show you. Can you improve upon the presentation I'm going to show and the structure I'm going to show, certainly, I mean, there's definitely things that you can do better than I just know that with these basic things, you'll be covering the basic parts. If you must know, and I've done, so again, I'm the tech guy, so I typically, so what would happen is with our kind of more premier clients, they do these things called makeovers. And in those makeovers, you know, they pay this big package. We do the branding, we help them talk about their product and their solutions. And then we help them actually put together their content. So they go into the studio and then record their signature presentations in studio. And so guess who gets to record a lot of those signature presentations? So I hear a lot of speakers, right? Like I've heard a lot of speakers come through and do those presentations. I can almost do their presentation for them in terms of the structuring and the wording. So I pretty much know the structure kind of like the back of my hand. So again, if you're wondering, like, Justin, how does your experience really qualify you to tell us? Like, I've listened to a lot of presentations. I've sat in as people have been coached. So when I first started, before I started to kind of coach people through certain parts of the presentation, I obviously got to listen in a lot on kind of Trevor Otts and Shay Brown and Ruben West and other folks who would help coach people through these presentations. I got to sit in and see what feedback they were giving. And I did this a lot. So I've learned quite a bit. So I kind of got my stuff a little bit, just slightly. Okay. So I'm going to show you in a second here. Let me go ahead and pull up mine. Disclaimer, am I a design guru? No. I hired somebody to do some of this, and then I made some updates myself. So you're like, Justin, it's like the prettiest thing ever. It's not, but it works. It's effective. If you're worried about the design piece of putting together a presentation, and I'll talk a little bit more about this tomorrow, it doesn't need to be like, if you think you have to be Picasso, it's good from a branding aspect. The more stylish it is, but is it required for you to be able to make sales from it and be effective? No. But I'll talk about that stuff tomorrow. We're kind of talk about the aesthetics of a good PowerPoint. Those things will be tomorrow. So today is really just the structure. So if you have those kind of questions and thoughts for yourself, they'll be answered tomorrow. Okay. So right now, what we're looking at, again, this is what I put together for Tech Labs, my first one for Tech Labs. And if I had to summarize the structure of a presentation, it is the title or topic, quick intro, their story, your story, the meat, so the solution, so you actually give value and content, and then you sell. So that is, like, if I had to break down the entire thing and make it as simple as possible in terms of structure, it's topic, headline, like grabbing topic, grab attention now, short intro, their story, your story. So their story, then your story. The meat. So the meat and potatoes is what they came to get, like some kind of answer. You're actually going to solve some problems. In this part, you're actually going to give some great information, change some minds, change some beliefs, change some thought patterns. In this section here, the meat, and then you sell at the end. Okay, so that is the typical structure of any good presentation, is that. And so here again, you have your intro, bang. So if I were to put this up in presentation mode so you can see it. Okay. So boom. So I got that. Okay, so I said been there, done that. So again, this is where I give my short intro, right? So this doesn't always have to be the same thing. Again, I try to do it in a way that keeps people engaged. And so the first part is, again, the first slide was just, headline, right? So it's just the headline. So you have to think of a catchy headline. Think of, and your headline should be the big domino, right? It should be the big problem, the big thing that you want to tackle. It should lead to that. So when you were thinking about your problems and solutions at the beginning of this series, this challenge here, it's 25 days, This should be in response to that. And so for me, it's how to automate your business without hiring a tech team or breaking the bank, right? So that's the big belief, is I want people to know that they can automate their business without going out and spending a ton of money, and without feeling like they have to hire a complete company to get that stuff done. And that there are other ways and methods, and I will provide that method. And so it's kind of a setup to then sell them the answer to this, after it, right? So that's the idea. Okay. So been there, done that. Again, that's just a key for me. Again, this is kind of something I'll talk about tomorrow. Just hopefully I remember, but it makes more sense tomorrow. But again, here's where you start giving some intro, and the intro can vary, but ultimately it's, hey, I am blank. It's who you are. And then you start the process of putting yourself in their shoes, right? So again, their story, right? So it's, hey, I know you've been at these type of things before, right? So you kind of get in their brain a little bit. So it's typically where you are. So I know you've done something like this before. That's a great way to lead into it. Find your difference, your variety in that idea. But the idea is to identify, hey, obviously they've sat in on some presentation before. This is going to be different, and why. So now you can set the ground rules. So the intro, kind of the ground rules of the presentation, this is where you would do it. Okay, and then from there, you talk about the goals, right? So you talk about the goals ultimately of this, okay? So you talk about, hey, this is the things I want to accomplish in this time. Why you must systematize, have a system for your business. So I established some goals here. Bang, bang. My story is your story. So you could have. So it depends on how you want to do this. Right. So here is kind of where you identify who they are. Right. And there's different slick ways to do it. I do it a certain way, but essentially this is where you identify their story. You can do their story via kind of giving examples of your story. There's different strategic ways to do it. So play with it. There's no necessarily a right or wrong way I can give you right now. Kind of depends on you and your delivery. You can either give their story here, or you could have done it before the goals. So you can do it either way. You can do kind of both. Okay. So then my story is your story. So this kind of gets you to, at the end of this though, you should start transitioning into your story. Okay. All right. So boom. So here I would have finished up my story. So again, I kind of start with their story. I start into my story, and then I connect it to. So this is a bridge, right? So I say, like, at the end of my story, ultimately I talk about how I failed to sell anybody for my biggest speaking opportunity, right? So how I missed out on a 5-figure opportunity because I didn't have the right system in place, and y'all have heard the story. And so at the end of it, I say, hey, but the biggest thing is that I failed to change lives, right? So I failed to change so many lives. And how often have you failed? How many lives have you failed to save? Right? How many people's lives have you failed to change because you weren't ready to be at the top of, ready to serve, ready prepared, ready to deliver your product and things of that nature. Okay, so that's what I do, and kind of bridges the two together, right? So after that, so the next key thing is then kind of getting back into the ultimate meat, right? So now I'm at the meat of it, and I say the 3 things, the 3 questions, the 3 things they're going to learn, and you can make whatever you want, be the 5 things, 10 things, maybe a little overkill, but how many things they're going to learn. There's a reason that you do it this way. What's his name? Guy Kiyosaki gave a presentation some time ago. Again, another great speaker, and he says that when he ever does PowerPoints, he always tells them how many points they're getting through, because it allows them to kind of manage their patience a little bit and then give some expectations. That way they're not just sitting there not knowing when it's going to be over, right? And so this gets them to at least know that, hey, it's going to be over soon. They can kind of ration their patience and their energy, and so they have some idea, right? So it's a good thing. Also here, it's just setting clear guidelines on what they're going to get. Right. right? So that's the other part. So I say 3 upgrades. You can say 3 questions. You can say 3 tips, 3 goals, 3 secrets, whatever it is. Okay. So I say 3 upgrades. Like I think upgrade is technology. So I say upgrades, right? So these are upgrades to your way of thinking. And so that's why I named it that. So I labeled the upgrades. And so then I just go through each upgrade, right? So then now I'm giving content. Now in your content, it should be story tip, right? So it should be story tip. So with each secret, each tip, like there should be a story, right? There should be a tip or the actual solid like evidence or solid strategy. And then if you're really good, depending on where you are, you sneak in social proof, right? So social proof meaning how has somebody been successful with this thing? And so don't let the misnomer think that you have to be the one that has been successful with this thing. It could have been a client. It could have been, ideally, if you have a client testimonial that you can give, excellent. If not, then just find a real world example. Somebody else who did the same exact thing and had success with it. Again, it doesn't have to necessarily be you. The whole point is social proof just shows that it can be done, right? And that's the point. And again, it's like, and that's okay. So some folks may say, well, if it's not me and it's not legit, it's like, no, you're telling a story, right? I mean, I don't have to sit here and convince you that it's impossible, that it's possible to go to space. I didn't go to space. But you know that if I go and show you a news story of somebody launching to space, then it's true and it's possible. I didn't do it, but it just doesn't mean that you can't. It just means that I didn't, right? But it is possible. So I use somebody else's story. I mean, obviously, you let them know it's your story. So the only thing is just don't make sure you start telling a story that's not yours, but it's okay to cite somebody else's success. Like, that's fine. Okay? That's perfectly fine. All right, so I mean, these slides are just picture slides that I use just, again, to kind of help with my storytelling. So, again, I'll be going through this same exact presentation again tomorrow. So don't worry. I'll break down some of the other things I want you to really think about. Okay? You want to state the thing at the beginning, at the end of it. So it's kind of like, hey, discover how you can get all the tools you need without tanking the bank account. And at the end of this upgrade, I will then say, now you know how you can discover all the tools that you need without tanking the bank account. So again, I just reiterate the same thing, slightly different. You know, just saying that it's been done, like I told you about it. Okay. So again, story, strategy, social proof. So 3 S's really. Social, you know, so strategy, so story, strategy, and social proof. Okay, with each one. That is the structure. Okay, that's the structure. That's what I do. All right. Once you get on with that, boom. Okay, so then you kind of summarize everything, you know, once you get to the end of it. All right, so again, that was a long one. So let's go ahead and through, bang, bang, bang. All right, so once you get done with all that, so once you get through all your tips, then you bridge it into the sale. And so this is where it gets awkward for a lot of people. Like, again, I can't tell you. I would get to the, so when I go to the studio, right, I would meet these folks. And these folks, you know, they'd be pastors, preachers, speakers, teachers, counselors. Like, they're not foreign to the idea of communicating via voice. And so they get them in there, and they're so full of life, like so full of energy. I love meeting you all, speakers, coaches, trainers. Like, I love getting it. Just, you're always refreshing. You're always full of energy. You're always so positive. Fun, and just you always have something to teach. And so I enjoy it. So it's good stuff. I mean, sometimes I don't tell you the technical aspect of it. You know, I love doing it in some respects. On some days it's kind of like I don't feel like doing this stuff. But meeting the people is usually really cool. Outside a couple bad apples, but most part, folks are really good, and so I enjoy it. And what gets me though is that when I'm in there. And I'm like, all right, well, this is how your presentation is supposed to go. And so here's the sales part. So then you transition to the sales part. So they're like, yeah, I got it, Justin. We're good. I get excited. They're excited. I get on camera. They knock out, like, kill the presentation. I mean, great presentation. They get to the sales part, and all of a sudden it's like, I want to invite you to my mastermind, and the price is $9.97, and get like pretty much night and day from how well they typically present. Okay, and so it would behoove you to, when you put this structure together, at least for that last thing, practice how it transitions into the sales conversation. Like, is there a natural segue you can put there for yourself? Because if you don't have a natural segue, your energy is going to change. And that's what typically happens. Energy just drops, okay? People aren't always comfortable with selling, right? And so you have to find the right segue. And so for me, I set this up in such a way that it was just easy. So pretty much in this story, what I talk about, especially for this last one, is how I created Tech Labs, right? So ultimately, it was because I was tired of hearing, people saying they're not a tech person. I was tired of hearing people saying things are too expensive. I was tired of hearing people saying that things are confusing. And so what I did is I diligently went right there at that conference and went ahead and wrote out what would then become Tech Labs. And so let me talk to you about Tech Labs, right? So it is natural, right? So the story itself kind of supplements the strategy I'm going to give in this upgrade, but then it also naturally promotes me into the conversation, right, of selling. So really in this upgrade, I get to talk about Tech Labs by itself and really what it kind of represents in terms of their options in the marketplace, right? So boom, I just talk about it. And so really at this point, I'm not even in the sales conversation just yet, right? Like, I'm just telling about Tech Labs because it was this cool thing that's really about the upgrade. So again, now you know how to get to now. Like, it's an answer to their question, right? I created the question. The third piece is really the answer to the third mystery, secret, whatever it is my course. And so it's so natural. So now I can just be like, hey, now you know. But look, so let me ask you a question. So here, then you start asking some probing questions. Again, this is kind of to prime them to be in the state that they're ready to buy. Okay? So let me ask them a question. So I usually ask them, are you excited about this? Are you ready to go with this? Would you want to use this? Or was it too much for you? Was it exhausting? Is it overwhelming, etc.? Right? So most people are just like, yeah. Like, I would love to be using this. And so now that they've told themselves that they would love to use this, and it's like, all right, well, welcome to Tech Labs. So now I can have this sales conversation. And now the sales conversation is fairly straightforward. What you want to include in it is just essentially when I talked about earlier, talking about like the objections that somebody can have as their avatar and the excuses they tell themselves. This is a chance to go through and give every piece of that offer, like on your sales page, and then pretty much remove every excuse, right? So you talk about the program, okay? You can talk about what everything is worth, okay? And again, just talk about how you're solving all the individual problems. So just go through each problem, right? And go through each piece of the offer. So example would be, again, it's like, look, I know that a lot of you are very good at what you do. You have a lot of expertise, but it's not technology. And so some of you could still use some hand holding. You can still use a little bit of help. And so just like in college, if you needed some help, you would go to office hours. So I figured something cool was if you didn't have to be alone in your efforts, and at any point in time, you knew where you needed to go to get help. And so I did a couple of things. I created office hours so I'd be available live, just like, again, in college, I'd go to a professor and they'd be there, actually live. I wouldn't just walk into their office and find a book where I'd search through myself. No, I would actually get them and get their help. And then the other thing, because again, I felt like that wasn't enough, is I wanted to make sure there was a form available that was sufficient, that we could answer in an efficient amount of time. We can pose any question. We can get back to you with a response to answer your question, regardless of what it was. And so I created the tech request desk. Okay. But that wasn't all, because I know some folks, again, they say, well, the strategies are great. I know what I need to do, but it's expensive to do all those things. And so for me, again, I was like, all right, well, I wanted to make sure if this was, of course, was possible. And so I went ahead and went out of my way to make sure I could secure a piece of software that, sells for $97, really $100 a month, and make sure you get it for free, right? So I secured that and make sure you got it. So again, it's just something that you don't have to spend your money on and already gets you in the space of being able to have an automated system in place. So again, those are just, so kind of getting out of my sales presentation mode. Those are a few things right there, right? So again, I'm just going through each excuse. And so if you really want to, depending on how long you want your presentation to be, and how in flow and how well you're managing your crowd's energy, you can make all these things longer. You can add stories to each offer if you want. You can add a testimonial and story to each offer if you want. So again, that is an option that you can use. Okay. All right. And then, again, that's just me trying to get through all of the excuses. Bang, bang. All right. That's where you do the value add up. So again, you give them the total value and then you drop the price. Okay. Bang. And then I did a double price drop. Yeah, there we go. So I did a double price drop as a strategy on mine. You can do your strategy some other way. You don't have to do a price drop, but just at least build up and show the value first and then give a price, right? If you want to do a price drop after that, you can. And that's it. So that's what I want you all to do. That is a task for today, is to come up and outline. So the way you can outline, and the way that I like to do is first I do it on good old notebook. I first map out, at least try to get the main questions and topics down. And then what I do is I go and fill out a plain presentation here inside of PowerPoint. So no colors, no images, no nothing. I just put each main idea of each slide on separate slides. Okay. Once I do that, that's important because then you have the option of doing it yourself or hiring somebody, and you've already kind of have the template set out. And so that's what we're in today. So that's what I want you to do by tomorrow, or sometime tomorrow before you do the next task. The next task, again, I will be talking about setting up your PowerPoint inside of your presentation inside of PowerPoint, and kind of the structure and other tidbits and things you should consider. Oh, excuse me, y'all. Excuse me, as I set it up on that end. All right, the prize for today, the prize and the giveaway for today, if you are here, and again, you go over to Justin, if you go to facebook.com/JustinMOfficial, facebook.com/Justin M as in Mike official, or is M as in Morgan, whatever works for you, M official. Go ahead and follow the instructions in the pinned post at the top, and you'll learn how you can win something as a part of this. Okay. For the winner today, I will help you set up your webinar. There you go. I'll help you set up your webinar structure, and then go from there. I will not be doing any PowerPoints for anybody. So if you're curious, will not be doing any PowerPoints for anybody, and that's on you. I won't be doing that. Sorry. I apologize. But once you have it set up, I'll help you with your webinar piece and what that means. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. That is a step in here. But again, you'd have some help in terms of getting it done for you. Okay? That's what I got. Make sure you share this with a friend, family member, or a foe. They need this information too. Make sure that you automate your business, master your destiny, and that you maximize your impact. I'm Justin Morgan of AutomationMastery.net. And remember, treat each day as a building block to a better future. Peace.